Good afternoon. It's time for a beer with the Old Growler. I'm the Old Growler, Peter LaFrance. It should be 5 o'clock here in Brooklyn, New York. I see the clock just ticked over. Today is the 28th day of April, 2020, a Tuesday. And this is the 27th edition of Beer with the Old Growler, and the 43rd day of our being, paused here in New York City. And in most of the country, I guess, I wouldn't call it locked down, because you do get out. I mean, go to grocery stores, of course, our essentials, beers, beverages and things like that. But it's been an interesting 43 days. And since there are no pubs, bars, or taverns open, for those of you who are just watching this another day, I will tell you that what I decided to do was, since I couldn't go out to my favorite pubs, bars, or taverns, to have a beer with friends, that I would invite the world, or whoever wanted to come and have a beer with me at 5 o'clock every day here on my streaming channel. And so here I am, and there's been a few folks show up. And what I do best. Oh, and another, just to add insult to injury, for those of you who do not know me, but who have stumbled in, I am a journalist. I have covered the malt beer industry, the malt beverage industry, beer in particular, but the alcohol beverage industry, hospitality industry, for about 35 years, and particularly though the beer industry. And so visiting breweries and having conversations with brewmasters and bartenders and restaurateurs and beverage managers, that was part of my existence. And now I can interview people, yes, but only on the telephone or on Skype. And that's not any fun. I don't like interviewing people on Skype, although it can be done. In fact, I was thinking about maybe doing some, having call in some people, maybe have a guest interviewer or interviewee on the Old Growler. But let's see now, since it is 5 o'clock, or after 5 o'clock, I went over to the Henry Street Ale House. They were open today. Bartender Jerry was there, actually managing now, I reckon. And Jerry Scott, the fellow who works with me, well, I wouldn't say works, but because it's too much fun, but who helps me with my what used to be weekly meetings over there on Thursdays. So we'd get together and we would video something that we called Meeting Expectations. And what it was that, Peter, you can tell about meeting expectations after you have opened your beer. And this is a Captain Lawrence, I do believe, a Captain Lawrence lager. Nothing spectacular today, just good old beer. Oh, wow. Okay, watch yourself. That's a nice pour. That's a nice pour. It's a dusty glass, but it's a nice pour. Okay. Looks like I got a couple people here. It's both of you. Cheers, Nostrovia, Prost, L'Chaim, Slunge, and bottoms up. That's good. I should have rinsed the glass out, but what the hell? I'm not here to look at the. Well, yes, I am to look at the beer. That's what it's all about. Having a beer, relaxing, saying, to heck with what's been going on. And it is kind of nice to contemplative, I guess it is. Contemplative. No, we're not contemplative when it comes to the first beer. Greetings, Monica. Salutations. I'm glad you could join today. I think I've gotten through the teas. No, I've gotten through all the information, the regular information, so it's a good thing you turned up a little bit. I always have to introduce, I feel I have to introduce, would like to introduce each one of these segments as if someone was watching it for the first time, because hopefully later on someone will. But anyhow, there hasn't been too much exciting happening today. I did get back to working on my life as a professional barfly, 40 years of covering the beer industry, and as a journalist. And I was working on Walensky's Grill as a, what I'm doing is I'm going through the different pubs, bars, and taverns during the different parts of my life as a journalist, and what each one of them meant, how I met somebody there, or maybe it's something that had to do that ended up having something significant to do with a career. So I guess it's also an autobiography, but I'm going to call it well, it is. It's an autobiography. I'm old enough to try and pull it off, I guess. But was doing some research into the Walensky's. I don't know, do I have the notes here? No, Walensky's Bar, which is downstairs from Smith and Walensky, which was founded by a fellow, the same fellow who founded TGI Fridays. So, in fact, Smith and Walensky, the name apparently was, he was working, putting together the books, and the proposal and all of the, it was past proposal. It was pitched to the banks for all the loans and for the state liquor authority for the licensing and everything. They were working up all the papers, and they didn't have a name for the place. And so he, in almost desperation, opened up the Manhattan phone book and stuck his finger down and said Smith. And he moved the just put his finger down on Walensky. That's the name of the place, Smith and Walensky's. It used to be Wolf's Steakhouse, I believe. And so when they took it over, they just changed the open since sign on it. I believe it was 1977, and they didn't change any of the outside design at all. It turned into a chain, and then it was purchased by an investment group, except that the founder still owns the one here in New York, and I believe he also owns the vineyard on Long Island. But all of this called to mind that people write about, people record, people feel necessary to talk about what they don't have when they don't have it. And the same goes with bars and taverns. And since I don't have any bars or taverns to go to, it falls upon me to wonder, first of all, to record, to find out how the reasons that bars exist and the fun that people have at bars and the cycles that the bar business goes through. And I would just, I have picked up a piece here. It's from one of the luxury sites, lifestyle, and it has to do with what bars will look like after coronavirus. And essentially, it'll have to do with spacing and all that kind of good stuff. But first of all, there's going to be fewer bars in general. That's not such a cool idea. Takeaway and delivery are going to be the new normal. When New York quickly enacted its to-go booze and cocktail rules, a few places saw it as the beginning of a bright new future, post-coronavirus lockdown, of course. The rules against it date back to the end of Prohibition, when the government had to protect people against bootleg booze, and we've come a long way since then. So I guess it might simply be a matter of going back to what used to be before Prohibition. That would be interesting, huh? What else have we got here? Also, notice a few places around the country have had success with new and usually cheaper option of off-premise boozing. Yeah. When in a bar will be sitting further apart. That's probably true. Menus will be pared down, and so will the bar crew. The bar staff will be covered, and so might you. Less touching and more looking. And if you're not a social drinker, you might be fine. I don't know what that meant. I'll have to look at it. But there didn't seem to be too many surprise headlines on that. I'm not too, doesn't have me too upset. But anyways, it came down to bars and what were they? Favorite bars? Oh, favorite bars, favorite restaurants. And what other people thought of favorite bars and restaurants. And what the whole restaurant scene was like. And has been like. I want to look back. I always like to look back and find out what things were like. Well, speaking of Prohibition, this is a 1925. This book was published, and it's called The Restaurants of New York. And it was by a fairly well-known raconteur, George S. Chappelle, author of The Cruise of the Kawa, My Northern Exposure, and Sarah of the Sahara, etc. Greenberg Publishing in New York, 1925. And it's kind of fun reading. I mean, it's a bit catty, but and very, very personal. I mean, it's not much of a ratings thing. It's simply this is what this place is like and what that place is like, and also what the concept of the city was like. And this is again 1925, so it was before it was the dirty. It was before the dirty 30s, and the Roaring 20s, I guess you would call it. And I looked vainly for something to do with either the upper East Side, where I used to live, and then I said, well, why not look for Brooklyn? And so I did look in here, and he says he appreciates there's a certain part of New York, New York City. He appreciates the remoteness of Broadway, called civilization. But I found one evening it was almost impossible to get a taxi cab unless I would agree to go to Brooklyn. I've been to Brooklyn once, by the way, and in search of evening entertainment. Remarkably enough, I found it on the roof of the Bossert Hotel, where there's a tricky dance floor fitted up in nautical fashion with where the natives gather nightly. Most New Yorkers think more readily of a trip to Europe than to Brooklyn. On the good ship Bossert, they may combine both sensations. The Bossert Hotel, yes, that's on Montague Street. It's an impressive building. I mean, it really is. And the trouble is, and it does have a history as well. In 1951, the Dodgers, when they won the World Series, celebrated there at the bar on the third floor. It's a beautiful, beautiful bar. The back bar was all mirrors, and there was lots of crystal and dark wood carved. I mean, it was just a fantastic bar. And then about, well, I guess 30 or 40 years later, the Jehovah's Witnesses, I think, came in and bought the property for almost nothing and tore the bar out and turned it into a residence. But the Bossert still exists. But as he said, this is people back then thought of going to Brooklyn as going to Europe in the same way as going to Brooklyn. And you might have tuned in. Well, hopefully, let's see. Oh, what are you referencing regarding what bars will look like? Oh, ew. I'll send you the link. It's a lifestyle. Jesus, I used to call them magazines, but they're on they're online now. So some people call them, well, they're not blogs or vlogs. Would you have a channel? Magazine, an online magazine. But I'll get the I'll send you the link for sure. You remember me? I don't. Well, a couple of times I was talking about a book that I couldn't find that had to do with the speakeasies of New York, and lo and behold, amongst my cookbooks, for some reason, Hirschfeld's The Speakeasies of 1932, and it's a remarkable book in that um, it is illustrated. It has all the Hirschfeld illustrations for each of these bars, and it's a Gordon Kahn and Al Hirschfeld. Kahn had something, I believe this was a theater a writer, and it's remarkably well written. There's an introduction by Pete Hamill, which I think I quoted, saying that in the during the Prohibition, first of all, it was an urban and a rural war, essentially. And the people who lived in the cities considered it their duty as citizens to partake of beverage alcohol, despite the teetotalers. And there's some of the stuff about Prohibition is pretty remarkable. Some folks say that the only thing it brought us was organized crime. However, it also did some very interesting things. Women had never been allowed in bars before, and now speakeasies, nobody paid any attention. Well, when they paid attention, it was different. The Stonewall and the Royal Fizz. Boy, this goes. Yeah, let's take a. I had something marked here, and I can't remember what it was for. Oh, yes. I was at Yorkville. That's upper East Side. I was thinking Yorkville, and that was where I used to live. And this one is on This place was 239 East 86th Street. So that was the 86th Street between Lexington and 2nd, I believe, and 39 on the north side. But this is, again, when this book was written, I couldn't put the addresses in. So he simply says it's a fine old beer and eating place that's gradually succumbing to the tourist canker. Never been raided and probably never will be. A slower, more painful death awaits it at the increasing custom of rich vulgarians from West End Avenue and Slavs from Broadway. Boy. Only beer and an eminently drinkable stein at a quarter is sold at the bar. Same price and same brew at the rough board tables, glistening with schmaltz, rubbed into it by the elbows of 2 generations. Otto is the Boniface bartender. He hires no waiters who can't pick up 10 heavy steins, full to the brim in each hand, and carry them to the farthest table. The bar of ancient and staunch make not any of your. Hold on. The bar of ancient and staunch make not any of your imitation mahogany makeshifts. The original lighting fixtures had gas jets in case the newfangled electric system failed, are covered with tin foil in the summer to keep flies from fouling and oxidizing the copper finish. Oh my. The cuisine is usually German, and in the Teuton tradition, 4 women do the cooking. The Bromwurst is delicious, a crisp jacket which splits into a crackling and oozes luscious Saft pig's knuckles, bedded in sauerkraut, the real sauerkraut that has caraway seeds in it. The steaks are primed, but cooked in a German fashion, unless you order them broiled. Old customers of Otto often bring their Fräulein and Kinder in for a schnitzel or veal tongue, and little August gets a slap across the side of the head if he didn't drink all his beer. It's a wholesome place that will merely amuse anyone under 30, but will only bring a nostalgic pang to those who knew the old times and the old customs. And it's interesting that he has a recipe for beer here, the Otto's beer, and it says 6-gallon earthenware crock sugar. This is the equipment you need. Sugar spreader, siphon, strainer for end of siphon, bottle capper, caps and bottles. A batch which consists of 1 can hop flavored malt extract, 2 pounds brown sugar, and 1 yeast cake. You boil 1 gallon of water and let settle. Then add malt extract and sugar, stirring well. Put this in the earthenware crock and add 4 gallons of cold water. Dissolve the yeast cake in a glass of tepid water and add to this mixture. Let stand 3 days. Remove the foam twice a day. You are now ready for bottling. Put a half teaspoon of sugar in each bottle. Pour brew into the bottles through the siphon, cap, stand, and let them stand upright for 3 weeks. So that was Prohibition beer, which is pretty much, if I remember right, what I started out when I was homebrewing. And I'm willing to bet it was the same malt syrup, because Blue Ribbon malt syrup in a can with a yellow label around it, a yellow tone, and it had a red picture of a robust German woman. Oh, that was a good pint. I hope you don't mind if I. Oh, thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. I do. Have myself another. This isn't really quite a pint. Well, the glass is, but my pour. Not quite. Yeah, it's not quite a McSorley's pour. But three quarters. A mug is beer and 1/4. Well, no, it's 2/3 beer, 1/3 foam. God bless them. Great place. So when it comes to bars and research and books, the one book that is near and dear to my little heart is the New York Book of Pubs, Bars, and Taverns by Roz Lewis and Dave Yaden, or Dave Yaden and Roz. No, Roz L before Y. Roz Lewis and Dave Yaden. It is, well, does it have a? It's so old. It does. It does have an ISB, a book number. Hawthorne Books, Madison Avenue, and it was published in 1975. And my sister was working at a bookstore in Ossining, New York. And in 75, I had been out of Norwich, my university, for a year, stumbling around, mostly in Vermont, but also back at the homestead, and trying to get a job in New York. And I finally did. I ended up working. The first job I ever had was at a restaurant. I checked back a couple of episodes of the Old Growler, and it was a French restaurant, the Monk's Court and the Monk's Inn, and so I got a job there. And when I came to New York, I started living on 65th Street, and just off of First Avenue, right across from Maxwell's Plum. And I brought this book with me, and I believe it has, I think I marked in here 200. 106 out of 100. There's I guess 197 bars in this book, and 106 are still open in 1988. But let's see if I have. Oh yeah, here we go. There were 183 pubs, bars, taverns, and restaurants, and it was all listed very nicely. The ones that are dead are marked dead, and the ones that aren't. But there's an explanation. The area, Midtown, and then the location and the name of the place. Whether it has darts, whether it has gay, whether it's a gay bar, literary or artistic, live events, singles, sports, students, theater, trade, large restaurant. And that was the different aspects for each that they went to, and they didn't rate them, but they told about them. Let's see if I can find them. I'm sure I can find the Monk's Court, just to see what they thought about it. Where's your beer, Peter? It's over there. Monk's Court. Monk's Court? Yes, the Monk's Court. Let's see. Page 182. 182. Monk's Court. Okay. Oh, it's a short little one. They don't even give it. They give it a paragraph. Okay. Well, first of all, I'll give you my brief. This one is on 51st. Okay. It was a fairly nondescript building. It was kind of a New Orleans looking wrought iron balcony above the door. You stepped down into the place at about 3 or 4 steps, and you were confronted with huge round cheeses. I mean, we're talking 50 kilos. I mean, maybe 25 kilos. I mean, these were big, huge cheeses with candles in rustic bottles, oozing wax all over the place. And the people who were the staff, you didn't have to be. Back then, you could hire just all men or all women, and these were monks. See, so they were dressed in monks' outfits, and it was a rustic type of a place. Okay. Not a white tablecloth restaurant. No, you went there for stews and cheese plates, and the cordon bleu, I think, was the highest thing that they did. It's ham wrapped over cheese wrapped in chicken, and that was pretty much it. Okay, let's see what they say. Okay, they say, if you're in the area around cocktail hour, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 6:30. Hop into this unusual little basement restaurant designed to resemble a medieval monastic crypt. I didn't see any bodies. Not only are the drinks inexpensive and the atmosphere unique, but when you see these great wheels of cheese on the table near the door, you'll find it hard to resist staying on for dinner. There's nothing like the smell of a ripe Stilton to set taste buds jingling. Okay, that shows you the sense of humor that these kids have. But that was the Monk's Court. Let's see. Boy, back then, where was it? O'Neill's Balloon over near Lincoln Center, where Woody Allen was in there talking about the reason that they didn't sell his brother because they needed the eggs. One of those jokes. Let's see if it's at O'Neill's Balloon. J-A-L-M-N. Peter, why don't you have another drink? That's a good idea. O'Neill's Balloon. Where is it? Come on now. O'Neill Brothers. O'Neill's Balloon. There we go. 205. Whoops. Don't be so quick. 205. Your eyes don't work so good. 205. Where are they? Come on. 3. Why is there There we go. O'Neill's Balloon. I remember this place. Because it was also near the sister restaurant to the Monk's Court, which was the Monk's Inn over near Lincoln Center, which was exactly right next door to O'Neill Brothers, and which was Patrick O'Neill and the actor and his brother. They ran both of the restaurants, essentially. They owned them. But the Monk's Court Inn on the east side, as I say, they hired only males to be the monks. But on the east side over there near Lincoln Center, it made things were even more fun because half of the staff, well, pretty much half of the staff, were Yugoslavs from the Bronx, up Kingsbridge Road. And the other half were all flaming queens from the neighborhood. And the dynamic was just incredible. But anyway, O'Neill's Balloon. That brings me back to O'Neill's Balloon. Yes, a very open place. You could see out to Lincoln Center and everything. It gave you a great view. I remember I used to go in there and drink before work at the Monk's Court. And oh, geez, what do I remember most about that? I remember being very open and very quiet at that time of day. I started work, I think, at 5. And so I'd be in there around 4:30. It was, between shifts. Oh, and I don't think I ever ate anything there, although I might have. Well, I don't know why, because we had a house meal at the Monks. But it was open. It was very airy. It was very nice, pleasant. The beers were very, very fresh. I remember that. So let's see what they say. Okay. If you've heard of O'Neill's Balloon across from the Lincoln Center, but have never been there, you're probably in for a surprise. First, it's not a pretentious place, although it does cater both to the patrons and the performers at the center. Second, the prices are not outrageous. They are, in fact, downright reasonable and reflect the menu's unexpected preponderance for hamburgers. Third, it's Balloon with 1 L, not 2. That's because the name originally intended for the place was O'Neill's Saloon. All the signs were made up before it was discovered that there was a New York law prohibiting the use of the word saloon in a tavern's name. So rather than redo everything, the name was changed to Balloon, or at least that's how the story goes. The interior is attractive but simple: wooden tables and chairs, and only one particularly outstanding decorative touch: a large mural painted by artist Bob Crowell depicting the O'Neill brothers, their families, friends, members of the O'Neill organization, principals of the New York City Ballet, plus selected dancers from other companies. Space is still available for new friends and family to be painted in, and this is done regularly. To date, however, no one has been painted over. Most employees at O'Neill's are aspiring actors, artists, musicians, writers, etc. And it is standard policy here to hire those involved in the arts. But the conversation and chatter is wide-ranging, so don't feel badly if you don't know your Toscanini from your Picasso. It's not a single spot, but definitely a place to meet interesting people. And I would have to say that was pretty much it. As I don't, again, I was on my way to work, so I don't remember too much mingling with people. But hey, Mayor, did I say hello? If I didn't say hello, I'm sorry, I didn't notice you. But anyways, so that was the story about O'Neill's Balloon, and I held this book near and dear to my little heart, and tried to go through all of the pubs, bars, and restaurants, but it was, as we all know, impossible because some of them had closed before I was. Oh, geez, is that the West End? Let's see what they say. Is that the West End? No, that's a cellar. Never mind. That was another real favorite of ours. When there it is. Yeah, I found it. Oh, the West End. I have a. Oh boy, I don't know whether to do a tasting or bore you folks, you two good folks, with another story. First of all, I'm going to have a little bit more beer. Let's see. Oh, I've got some kind of Norton thing here. Come on, go away. That's good. Thank you. Well, I tell you what, kids. Why don't you vote while I have a little beer? Vote is to at least tell me whether you want to hear a story or you want to see me drink beer or do a tasting. I'd like to tell some stories, but I'll also do a tasting because other people are going to watch this someday, I hope. Oh, fuck it. It's only YouTube, kids. Well, not only is nobody is going to, you two aren't going to kill me if I don't taste beer. And let me tell you something. I wasn't looking forward to this. This is a Schlafly India Pale Ale, but it is labeled a grapefruit IPA. Now, first of all, one of the hops that they use on the West Coast, Cascade, makes it taste like grapefruit anyway. So why would you want to add grapefruit to grapefruit? It doesn't make any sense. And it was also bottled on February 14th, 2017 So it's a couple of years old, and it's not that high in alcohol. And then over here in this corner, I figured I'd glutton for punishment. This is a Magic Hat product, and it's called Electric Peel. And this is you've got it, a grapefruit IPA. And the scary thing is, there's no date on this, and I have the strangest feeling. The last time I heard from the folks at Magic Hat for sending a bottle rather than going to visit them was probably more years than the Schlafly. And does this have any chance at all of a date? Whoops, hold on down there. No. And it's only 6% alcohol by volume, so I'm not terribly excited about tasting either one of those. So if you'll let me off the hook and just, if you don't say anything, I'll consider the fact that you want me to tell you another story. Well, relate another tale about the great pubs and bars of New York. As I discovered them, anyway. There was a book written by a woman. The book was written, she wrote a book about St. Mark's Place in Manhattan. And she would talk to people about what it was like to live and to be and to go to St. Mark's Place. Oh, thank you, Monica. Okay, story time. And as she did her research, the people, she would say that she would talk to people, and some people would say, well, you know, St. Mark's Place is just kind of run down. And, well, when I was there, it lost its charm, and this, that, and the other. And then there would be others that would say, you know, when I was there, it was just fantastic. I mean, it was just, oh, it was the most marvelous thing in the world. And she noticed that there seemed to be a kind of a winnowing out between the people that thought it was great and the people that didn't think it was so good. And it came to age. The people that thought it was fantastic were there when they were 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And the ones that thought that it was kind of just were the ones that lived there when they were 35, 40, 45. So it dawned on me, reading the book and reading, I can't remember the name, but reading the book review of it that pointed it out as well, was it isn't that the way it is? When you're 17, 18, 19, you've got all the answers. You rule the world. You're invincible. There's nothing bad can happen. It's just wow, you know, you're gonna kick ass and take names and all that kind of good stuff. Unless, of course, you're not in any situation, not any. You have all kinds of troubles, and troubles happen to most folks. But for the most part, young people really do feel they're invincible, and so perhaps that's why this book has so much of an appeal. And all of the pubs, bars, and taverns that I remember going to at that time were so appealing. Oh, TGI Fridays. Remember, I mentioned that earlier, that TGI Fridays was the fellow that founded it, also founded Smith and Walensky's. Let's take a look. First of all, yeah, let's take a look at TGI Fridays and see what they, where it is, where it's from. Towards the end of the alphabet, Peter. T G I T A B C T G T G T G. Come on. You're kidding me. TGI Fridays. Teachers, 3 farthings, 3 lions, Thursdays, Timothy's, Tin Palace, Triple N. How about Fridays? They left the all there. Meat. Nice for shortcut. No, okay. I'm gonna look for Fridays. Maybe C D E F. C D E F. Fridays. Fridays. Eh? It's not TGI Fridays. It's Fridays. First Avenue and 63rd. I remember the phone number. I wrote it down, 832-8512. It. Okay, well, let's take a look. Page 227. 227. Now the the other way, Peter. 227. 223, 225. Oh, Drake's Drum, another classic. Right, okay. As I say, I lived on 65th Street, so I was just 2 blocks north of TGI Fridays. So yes, I did spend some time in there. And the chicken wings, if I remember, I do remember. I always remember food and beer. Chicken wings and it was chicken wings and a Budweiser, I'm pretty sure. I lived on those and mozzarella sticks. The hamburgers were pretty good, but again, I was working at the Monk's Court and the Monk's Inn, so I didn't have to spend too much money. Well, I could say I ate there. I ate at the restaurants. But, so, anyways, Fridays to me, it was never. I didn't conceive of it as a. People used to call it a singles bar. But yeah, when you put on a stretch of First Avenue there from 59th up to 86th, and they're relatively inexpensive apartments, and at that time, offices needed lots of young people to go up or out, and there they all were. I mean, and there was bars and people congregate in bars, and so I guess that was what it was. But I didn't see it as a single. I didn't see it as a single. It was a pickup. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. I don't know. I do remember the phone on the wall between the men's room and between the men's room and the front bar, the end of the very end of the bar. I remember being on boy. Remember that phone for I'm sure I had some very whack conversations on that phone, but for some reason that's the phone, the wings. I don't think I never sat down at the bar. I was always standing. It was always very crowded. I remember that. Very open and lots of ferns. Yeah. Okay, let's see what they say about Fridays. Okay, Richard Liss, once a dean of discipline at a public school and now manager of Fridays, claims that 63rd and the 1st is the best girl watching corner in the city. Don't forget the book was written. He may well be right, but we were far too busy watching the young and beautiful at play inside Fridays to cast more than a casual glance outside. Fridays, or to give the correct title, TGI, thank God it's Friday, is a landmark of the Manhattan singles scene. It opened in '65 around the same time as Maxwell's Plum and is still one of the most popular spots in the meat rack zone. Even though its decadent Victorian decor, Tiffany-type shades, old carved bar, Hemingway fans, and potted palms, has been imitated hundreds of more times in bars all over the city. The atmosphere, a little more restrained than the old party days when gorilla-suited employees would bound across First Avenue, stopping cars and literally dragging their occupants into the bar. But there's still a little life in the old place. Let's see, standard crowd, 20 to 30 years old. That was about me. Fridays is being attract the older group of singles and divorcees. Ooh, I didn't see. I didn't see any cougars, or I don't remember. It's also become a place this year for the next month for stewardesses. Oh boy, so much so that the area has been labeled a little unkindly as the stew zoo. Alan Stillman, Ben Benson, yeah, the Alan Stillman, Ben Benson Steakhouse, he was involved. And Ernest Coleman, owners of Fridays, also Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, that's right, are still confused over the success of the place. If you're not familiar with the single scene, Fridays is a good place for initiation into the subtleties of the game. On the other hand, if you're an older regular, you probably not even read this far because you already know about Fridays. Maybe that was because I was an old hand. I already knew it. Just, I think I was there to impress more than to be impressed. That's an ego, isn't it? Yeah. As I say, when you're young, you're immortal. And there I was, a writer with just a day job in a restaurant. Boy, that sounded familiar, huh? Well, let's see. I was writing about Smith and Walensky's, and about Walensky's Grill in particular. Um, I was lucky enough to meet the bartender, Patty, at a whiskey tasting at Keen's Chop House back in 91 or 90. Yeah, 90. And it was funny because he knew me. He recognized me. Um, and I was surprised. But the thing is that him being a bartender at Walensky's Grill, and every year on my daughter's birthday, my father-in-law, my best man, and I would get together on her birthday and go to Walensky's Grill and have steaks. And that went on for a good 10 years. And she was born in '85, so it's just 5 years. We've been going there 5 years regular. And so, being a good bartender, he recognized me. And so we talked for a bit. And the next time I was in there waiting, I think it was for an interview for somebody. Uh, there was a fella came in. It was definitely in the afternoon. It had to have been 4 o'clock because there was, I mean, nobody in there. And this fella came in with a fedora pretty much like I've got, but he had a brown suit and, well, a rather flashy tie, white shirt, brown shoes. And he was at the end went to the end of the bar, and he asked for a bull shot. Well, I think that's bouillon with 2 ounces of vodka on ice, stirred, and I'm not too sure if there's a garnish or not. I think it might be a celery garnish. But so he asked for this bull shot, and Patrick made it for him. So he gives it to Patrick. Patrick serves the guy, and we were talking, just how's it going? Oh, pretty good, What do you hear? Yeah, not much, that type of thing. And the guy's down at the end of the bar, and he doesn't say too much. And finally, he gets, I say, about that much left in his drink. And he calls Patrick down to the end of the bar. He said, that bull shot was kind of salty. And Patrick looked at him and he said, oh, well, I tell you what, sir. There's a fine wee bar a half a block down the way. It's called Neil's. They've got the greatest bull shots in the world in Neil's. I tell you what, this one's on you. go try one of Neil's. And tell Barney, the bartender, that I sent you. Now, I certainly hope that Patty really hated Barney, but I thought that was a cool way to handle that customer. There you go. That's a professional bartender who can remember a face just seeing them come in the door 10 times. And later on, he knew what I drank too, martinis back then. Bombay Sapphires, straight up. But anyways, those are the stories for today. We're getting, yeah, it's managed to do 50 minutes for you. Tomorrow maybe we'll do the grapefruit tasting tomorrow and see what happens. I've also got some of the kids sent me when I say the spirits stop by every once in a while. This is Cask Cartel Zodiac, a black cherry flavored vodka finished in oak barrels. It's a barrel release limited edition. This is a sample, not for resale. And so that's in the works. I was trying to see if I could taste that, but we'll save that for a later day. I see somebody just stopped in. We have a third person here. Uh-oh. I was all set to sign off, and I get more applause and a second thumbs up. Oh dear. Oops, they left. Thank you very much. I scared them away. I shouldn't do that. But anyway, for those of you who are watching this at a later date, I appreciate you lasting this long. It's 51 minutes and 57 seconds. If you are not already a subscriber, please subscribe. I would appreciate that. And not only that, but share it with friends, neighbors, relatives, anybody that would be interested in seeing me sit and talk and drink beer. Anyone else who wants to drink beer or would like to drink beer, I would be perfectly glad to have you join me here. Leave something in the comments box for me, and I'll be able to certainly see if we can talk about that as well. Okay, well, Monica and the other person out there, I do thank you for stopping by. It's been a pleasure, and it's kind of good to know that I'm not, at least I can convince myself that I'm not drinking alone. For everyone else who has watched this, thank you for watching this far, and I hope that all of your beers meet expectations.